What's up everybody, Fortexfiend here, welcome back again to my channel, and in this video for SD Gundam G Generation Eternal, we're going to be taking a look at the free SSR Attacker Pilot and the free SSR Attacker unit that we can earn from the current Fierce Enemy Assault, which coincides with the Iron-Blooded Orphans event. But before I go ahead and talk about that, you guys know the drill. There is a subscribe button, a notification bell, a like and dislike button, and also a comment section for you guys to interact with if you enjoy what you see on this channel. So I'm going to leave that to you guys, and you guys let me know what you think of this unit and this pilot. But we're going to go ahead and talk about this unit. I'm going to give you guys my full, honest opinions and thoughts about it. This was kind of requested in the comments from my last two videos, so you know what? Might as well give you guys what I think of this particular pilot and unit. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the actual unit that you can earn for free first, which is the Gundam Hajiroboshi, I think is how you say that. So this is going to be from Iron-Blooded Orphans. I'm going to go ahead and put it at max upgrade. We're going to put it at SP, just so that way we have a little bit of context when I'm talking about this. So this is primarily a melee type unit. And again, because this is part of the Iron-Blooded Orphan series, a lot of them tend to lean more towards like melee damage. There are some that lean towards like ranged, but however, a majority of them are going to be of the melee oriented type of combat. As you can see right there, it does hit 11,324 attack. Considering the fact that you fully max limit broken and you decide to use your SP conversion coins on this, it's not the highest that we've seen. However, when I do get into its passives, we're going to see something a little bit different. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at its weapons first, because I do want to at least talk about that. So it has a one range attack called Crab Shield. So this one has like absolutely no effects. This is going to be like your standard, close quarters combat type of an attack. The power on it is only at 4,680. However, it does have a 100% accuracy, and it does have a 5% chance to crit. Not that high, but still, you have a 1 in 20 chance of landing that crit. It is a very in-your-face type of an attack, so if you find yourself in that situation needing to use this attack is right there for you. It also does have Smart Mace, which is its most powerful attack at 5,280. This has a range of 2. It also does have a 10% chance to crit, so this is a 1 out of 10 chance. And the closer you are to the enemy, which it's melee styled, the greater the weapon power, up to a 15% increase. So it jumps up to a pretty decently high number for an SSR attacker for the power, and I would say this is a pretty solid skill that you got over here. And then finally, its range attack is up to 3. It is a physical range attack. It has a 4,200 power, and the higher your HP is, the greater the weapon power increase. So we're looking at what, like 4,620 right there in terms of like its full weapon power capability. It only has a range of 3 though, so just keep that in mind. This is a unit that you're not gonna want to play the range game with. So if you're up against enemy range units, you want to get in their face. You don't want to play the range game because it doesn't have a lot of capabilities when it comes to that. Now, in terms of its actual abilities or passives, it has an increased attack by 10%, and it also has an energy regen for 5%, which is always useful. And then afterwards, when it's fighting enemy units from the specified series, which is Iron-Blooded Orphans, it gets an attack and defense increase by 15%. So that is pretty significant if you're going to be taking this particular unit into like Iron-Blooded Orphan themed stages. For example, we just got a slew of brand new stages for the main story. We have the Fierce Enemy Assault. We also have the Eternal Roads that were just added. And then if you play through the tower mode, every now and then you're going to come across some enemies that are of a particular series. So you can also consider taking this unit into that. And then it also has a nano laminate armor level 3. So any type of beam weapon damage that it takes is reduced by 30%. However, keep in mind, EX attacks are not affected by this because they do have that weapon nullification. And then it does have a shield mechanism, which I think is always useful, giving it another form of mitigation. And finally, its tags are Alternative and Gundam Standout, Protagonist Standout, Specialized Unit, and Tough as Nails also stand out. So all in all, I do think that this unit is, I think it's a situationally good unit. If you're taking it into Iron-Blooded Orphans, it's a fantastic option because it actually reaches close to 13,000 attack when you factor in that conditional passive. And we're actually going to take a look at that here, right? So as you can see right here on the Soul Sage page, I put the conditional passive on, I put the SP conversion to level 100, and as you can see, it hits that 12,868 mark. But remember, This is only active when you're battling enemy units of the Iron-Blooded Orphans series. So this is essentially an anti-meta to Iron-Blooded Orphans unit stages. So this is the type of unit, if you're free to play, or if you're just looking for like a filler that you want to use in your Iron-Blooded Orphans team, this is going to be one that you're going to be considering. But without it, as you can see right here, it's only at a mere 11,324. And if we put that into more perspective here, I've gone ahead and filtered out the attackers and the SSRs and then I have it descending in terms of like the attack power. And as you can see right here, if we scroll all the way down, it's not even on the first page. So we have to go all the way to the second page. And it is right here. So as you can see right there, it's not the greatest in terms of like the actual attack power at base, but it does shoot up when you have it battling against Iron-Blooded Orphans units. So all in all, I'd say it's a solid unit. I think it's a pretty situational unit. Would I go out of my way to use my SP conversion coins? Probably not, honestly. And when we talk about the pilot, I'll get into that even more. But because of the fact that this unit, in my opinion, is very situational, I don't think it's worth it unless you absolutely really like this unit. I do think design-wise, it looks pretty cool. But in terms of like having to use resources that are limited, that we don't get nearly as often, we've been getting them more, but they're still limited. We don't get them as often. So I'd hold off. In all honesty, I would hold off on your SP coins. But if you absolutely love this unit, if you think I'm wrong and you think that I'm underselling it, then go ahead and use your SP conversion coins. That's the beauty of this game. You can play how you want. You can get as creative as you want. You can use whatever units that you want because there's just so many units. So that is going to be my thoughts and opinion about the Gundam Hajiroboshi. Now we're going to take a look at the pilot that we can get, which is going to be Wistario Afam. I hope I said that correctly again. I think this is a manga character, or it could be... I don't remember seeing this guy in the show, and if he is, maybe I completely missed it, or I just didn't hear them call his name, but, you know, I don't remember. I'm only on episode 7, so forgive me on that. Anyways, again, we're gonna take a look at his stats without the SP conversion, because truth be told, your SP conversion for your pilots are much better used on SRs and Rs. SSRs already have what they need in order to be able to be competitive. All they really get is a stat boost, so you don't really need to use your SP conversion coins unless you really like this guy. So in terms of skills, you have lock on, 100% accuracy. Sure, if you really need that. And then he also has sway level 1, so he has a 1-turn chance of increasing of his evasion by 100%. So essentially, it's like I would call it like kind of a lifeline unless you're getting hit by like absolute hit. So it's there. I would have preferred the lock-on to be maybe like attack burst or MP increase or something like that, or even something that maybe increases melee damage, because we have been seeing abilities or skills, that do that. But I would say skill-wise, you got one really cool skill and one really in my opinion, it's a throwaway skill. And then afterwards, in terms of his abilities, you got increased own damage dealt, which is always nice. Increased melee. Again, a lot of these Iron-Blooded Orphan pilots and units are very melee focused. And then he gets an additional chance step. So we got a double chance step here. However, the prerequisites are he has to be piloting a unit that has both Gundam and Iron-Blooded Orphans. Well, good news. A majority of Iron-Blooded Orphans have both of those. They have both Gundam and also the Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphan series. So you could stick him in, like, for example, the SSR development unit for either Lupus or Lupus Rex. I think those are fantastic options for him that you could use. There's other units that you could use him in. For example, there is the one that we got from the side story event. I think it's the Astaroth Rina Shimento is what we got. You could stick them on there because it does have both of those tags. So what I do like about this particular passive is that even though, yes, you do need two, you have to have both. They're tags and series that's not hard to fulfill for this particular character. Unlike, for example, let's say with Machu needs to be in G-Quux to get that extra chance step. Right now, that's really the only unit that she can use at the moment to get that extra chance step until they start adding in more Gundam G-Quux series units. But this particular pilot, I think, is a lot more flexible. Still more so regulated to Iron-Blooded Orphans, but there's a lot of options now that we got the full dev tree unlocked, and now that we have more options for that particular series. And then afterwards, he gets increased melee by 5%, just giving him a bit more melee stats. So, you know, without the SP conversion, you have him at 670. With the SP conversion, if you really want to, which again, I don't recommend that, you're hitting close to 800, which is pretty impressive. But he doesn't really need it because SSR Pilot, you're not really getting that much value for the buck in using your SP coins on him. But again, if you really like him, go ahead and do so. I think the pilot is actually pretty solid, especially if you're using him in an iron-blooded themed team. You don't have to use him in the Hajiroboshi because, again, in my opinion, that's a very situational unit in terms of like where it excels. But if you throw him in any other Iron-Blooded Orphan series unit that also has the Gundam tag, well, you get that extra chance step. So I think the pilot is good. I think he has a lot of flexibility in that regard. I think between the two, I would say he's the prize. And it's great that both of these are free and you can earn them just by playing through the Fierce Enemy Assault. But let me know what you guys think down below. Let me know what kind of stages you've been using the pilot and the particular unit on. And again, if you disagree with my take on the unit, for example, or the pilot, let me know where you think I got it wrong, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Thank you guys again for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and stay blessed, everybody.